Hi, I am Deborah Hampton, and I am the Global Brand Enforcement and Trademark Team Leader at the Chemours Company, and I am currently serving as the President of the International Trademark Association. And you are listening to IP Fridays.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of IP Fridays. Our names are Ken Suzan and Rolf Claessen, and this is the podcast dedicated to intellectual property. It does not matter where you are from, in-house or private practice, novice or expert. We will help you stay up to date with current topics in the fields of trademarks, patents, design and copyright, discover useful tools, and much more.
I am Rolf Claessen, and my co-host Ken Suzan and I are welcoming you to episode 173 of our podcast IP Fridays. Today's interview guest is Deborah Hampton. She is the Global Brand Enforcement and Trademark Team Leader at the Chemours Company and is currently serving as a president of the International Trademark Association, INTA. But before we jump into this interview, I have news for you. The US Department of Justice and the USPTO filed a joint statement supporting the right of non-practicing entities, NPEs, to seek injunctions against patent infringers. This position challenges established post-eBay case law, which has made it difficult for NPEs to obtain injunctive relief. The UPC Court of Appeal ruled that security for costs can be provided through specialized insurance policies. This significantly lowers the financial barriers to bringing patent actions at the UPC, as companies no longer need to deposit large amounts of liquid capital as security. Huawei has filed a new lawsuit at the UPC Mannheim against 12 Walt Disney Group companies, asserting a European patent relating to transform coefficient coding under the HVAC standard used by Disney+. Two additional suits were filed at Munich Regional Court 1. In a parallel action, Huawei is suing Meta and Facebook at the UPC over another European patent covering video compression in end devices. This continues Huawei's strategy of pressuring streaming and platform providers into licensing its SEP portfolios. In a landmark first, the UPC Court of Appeal has referred a legal question to the European Court of Justice, whether the UPC has jurisdiction over defendants without a seat in a UPC member state, provided a co-defendant is domiciled within the UPC territory, so-called long-arm jurisdiction. The case arose from a dispute between Dyson and Chinese competitor Dream. The first instance injunction was simultaneously extended to cover newer Dream hair dryers. And now let's jump into the interview with Deborah Hampton. Today's guest on the IP Fridays podcast is Deborah Hampton. If you don't know Deborah, she's the Global Brand and Enforcement and Trademark Team Leader at the Chemours Company and is currently serving as the President of the International Trademark Association. Thank you for being on our podcast IP Fridays, Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have been in the field of IP more than 25 years now. How did you get there and where did it lead you now?
I've actually been an IP practitioner for 43 years, and I started at a small IP firm in New York. And it was my first paralegal position, and I fell in love with IP from the very beginning. So this field has allowed me to travel the world, meeting some amazing and brilliant colleagues, as well as high-ranking government, judicial, and IPO officials. I've also worked extremely hard to stay abreast of trends, statutes, precedent cases, and practices that enhance the way we do our jobs.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. I didn't know you've been in the field so long. Great to hear that. So I'm personally very interested in the fight against counterfeit goods. Why, in your personal opinion, is it so important to fight counterfeit goods? And maybe you can share your thoughts, maybe why it is important, maybe a little bit how you do it, and something like that.
Sure. So there are a number of factors that I always take to consideration when it comes to counterfeit goods. Starting with consumer safety, counterfeits often bypass safety and quality standards, putting consumers at real risk. And then there's consumer trust. Fake goods undermine confidence in brands and legitimate marketplaces, especially online. And then we go to economic harm. Counterfeiting drains revenue from lawful businesses, it weakens innovation, and ultimately it costs jobs. And then there's the impact on SMEs, small business and enterprises. Smaller businesses are hit the hardest. They're lacking resources to combat fakes at scale. And then this is the one that scares me the most, organized crime. Counterfeiting fuels criminal networks and is linked to broader illicit activity. And then we've got fair competition. Fake goods distort the markets by undercutting compliant, responsible producers. Um, and then we get to our IP system integrity. Strong enforcement protects trademarks that drive investment, innovation, and growth. So it's important to combat both the production and sale and the demand for counterfeit goods. So with INTA, we have anti-counterfeiting priorities, and that's focused on customs and border measures, criminal enforcement, online counterfeiting, plus consumer education. So at INTA, our approach is we have an anti-counterfeiting committee, and they lead the association's activities and initiatives to address the production and sale of counterfeit goods. So the committee develops and advocates the association's policy regarding anti-counterfeiting and enforcement issues. And they will monitor developments in treaties, legislation, regulations, and other enforcement mechanisms worldwide. And they complete research and analysis to propose policy recommendations to the board. So through the committee, we also partner with stakeholders to advocate for stronger anti-counterfeiting measures online and offline. We promote cooperation in enforcement efforts across agencies and borders, and we increase awareness of the harms of counterfeiting. We also have the Unreal Campaign Committee, which leads the association's efforts to address the demand for counterfeit goods. And they receive the Unreal Campaign itself, which educates young consumers ages 14 to 23 about the importance of trademarks and brands and the dangers of counterfeit products through student engagement, presentation, and online engagement. And I remember when I was that age, and if something looked good and it was low price, I was eager to purchase it. And now in this profession, I realized I probably wasn't always getting genuine goods. So there you go. That's where we are on our anti-counterfeiting efforts.
Yes, that helps me explain friends of mine who go to, for example, Turkey for holidays, and then they buy fake clothes, and then they don't know really what they do with that, what the harm they are doing with buying these fake T-shirts and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you are also on the Presidential Task Force for Unifying IP Protection and Enforcement Strategy. I am very curious. Can you tell us more about this task force? Like, who is part of this task force? What is the agenda? Can you tell us more?
Sure. I will tell you before I answer, when I was nominated to become an officer, I immediately thought about two things. What would my presidential task force topic be? And what would I wear for the opening ceremonies and speech? But the 2026 Presidential Task Force is titled Unifying Intellectual Property Protection and Enforcement Strategy. And the goal is to eliminate the value leakage and risk caused by fragmented approaches to IP protection and enforcement. And the outcome would be we'll deliver a unified global operating model that aligns strategy, enforcement, and measurement, enabling organizations to work smarter, to protect more, and quantify their impact across every function and jurisdiction. Why? Many organizations, including my own, currently operate with a fragmented approach to IP, with disconnected silos that work at cross purposes and sometimes even against each other, instead of as a unified IP enforcement team. So the challenge for many organizations is to ensure and maintain internal coordination of all intangible related aspects to eliminate inefficiencies, risks, and loss of value. In a nutshell, we have um, a tremendous amount of stakeholders. We have the business, we have security, IT or IT cybersecurity, outside counsel. Of course, we have our customers, etc. And then we've got the judiciary, the IPOs, and we all are striving for the same goal, to eliminate counterfeit product. But sometimes the road that we take to get there is not always unified. And we're not, and so I thought that this would be a good subject for us to explore in bringing all of those stakeholders together. So ultimately, I would hope we would wind up with is a strong cross-functional partnership focused on eliminating counterfeiting and
Yeah,
protecting protecting IP, not just
right.
brands. It's IP, period.
IP, also patents and designs and
Exactly,
everything,
all of it,
right?
everything.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe most importantly, you are this year's INTA president, so the president of the International Trademark Association. What is your agenda for this year, and what do you want people in the field to change or realize while you are president?
Thank you. Great question. So there are several key responsibilities that I have. I chair the board, so I steward the strategy, the governance. I keep the board focused on execution of our new 2026-2029 strategic plan. And I'm also the association's public voice, and I champion member value and professional growth. And that's an area of responsibility is really important to me. So that means promoting programs that upskill our community, such as the INTA certificate programs, and ensure that our education, networking, and volunteer pathways deliver tangible ROI or return on investment. And then I have to show up and be accessible, and of course, guide the presidential task force. Um, and in terms of how I exert influence, I convene key stakeholders. We bring the right players at the same table, including policymakers, regulators, customs, courts, brand owners, et cetera, et cetera. And then we focus on evidence-based advocacy. I want to gather input and intel from our members and committees to brief policymakers. And part of my responsibility is thought leadership and messaging. I want to help frame the issues, highlight solutions, and keep our narrative consistent. Um, and again, another area that's special to my heart is volunteer mobilization. With a new committee term and structure in 2026, I'll energize volunteers and recognize contributions, turning participation into momentum for the strategic plan. And what do I want people in the field to change or realize? I want them to prioritize mentorship and preparing the next generation of IP professionals. And I want them to realize that the IP profession is evolving. The profession is evolving rapidly as we navigate a more complex and resource constrained environment. AI is transforming how IP portfolios are managed and enforced. We're creating new efficiencies while also raising novel legal and strategic questions. But at the same time, we've got tighter budgets are forcing IP teams to prioritize smarter, more data-driven decision making, even as portfolios grow more global, digital, and interconnected. So today we are expected not only to protect rights, but to act as strategic advisors to our business partners, aligning IP with business goals, innovation, risk management in an increasingly complex marketplace.
Yes, thank you very much. That was a lot that you want people to remember. But one thing I remember is that you want to be accessible at the INTA meeting, so the annual meeting. So I'm looking forward to meet you in person. That would be really great.
Absolutely. But I want your audience to know this too. INTA is here to help and is supporting our members to effectively navigate the rapidly evolving business and legal environment. And this is a strategic priority for INTA in its current 2026-2029 strategic plan.
Yes, I really do like to exchange ideas with the participants there and the people I meet, how to enforce trademarks across borders, for example. There's always new strategies, what you can do, what you cannot do, and so on. So that's always really great networking place to be at the INT annual meeting. So yeah.
Yeah, and through the years, I've built up strong networks that I reach out to when there are issues. I don't want to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to, but also it can be a status check. Are we doing things the same way because this is what we've learned and what we've become comfortable with, or is there a better, newer, different way to do things that will move the profession forward, but also move the overall protection and enhancement of IP as far as consumers and the public. So we have to keep, checking on each other to make sure, we're not getting stale.
Right, and challenge each other.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So that leads us to the next question about the annual meeting, actually. So this year, the INT annual meeting will take place in London in the beginning of May. I will be there and hopefully lots of my colleagues. And I registered, so we talk about that also. I'm looking forward to meet you in person there, as I said. And It's a really mandatory event for me as a trademark professional. It's a must go, basically. And for all who are undecided, what do you want to tell them? Also, many people don't really bother to register and just want to reap the benefits of being able to meet everyone without paying for it. What do you say to these people?
Well, first of all, I'm excited that, number one, you are registered, and I am definitely looking forward to meeting you in person. But let me begin with a message to those who are considering coming to London without registering. And this is extremely important and serious for me. And this is my personal message. Do not expect me to consider giving you my business if you cannot register for the annual meeting. I also will not be taking any meetings with any of my existing counsel, if they're not registered, because it's important. As INTA president and a proud member of the INTA community, and while I've been an IP practitioner for 43 years, I've been active as a committee member since 1990. Free riding on paying registrants is just not ethical. And, I just talked about counterfeiting, etc. You can almost equate that to the same thing if you're not registering for the meeting. If all the paying registrants did not support the association in this way, there would not be an annual meeting. There'd be no annual gathering where we can do a year's work in a week, where we can meet with friends and colleagues from around the world, where outside counsel can grow their client base, and as an in-house practitioner, where I can meet my peers and exchange ideas and things of that nature. But this also has a huge impact on the association and its ability to pursue its mission and advance IP. We estimate that anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people attend the annual meeting without registering. That costs the association up to $2.2 million. Can you imagine what we can do with that money? This is equivalent to the entire representative office annual budget worldwide. This practice undermines the community and increasing costs for legitimate registrants, and it threatens INTA's ability to invest in future programs. Unregistered attendees cannot access sessions, networking, or business meetings, and risk loss of professional credibility. Because I'm going to look at a side eye at outside counsel or others, and I don't want to just focus on outside count, anyone who's unregistered, um, and wonder what's going on. Through the years, I've spent money out of my own pocket to register to travel because I feel like the value of the meetings is literally priceless. It's almost like you can't put a value on it. So registration is an investment in INTA and in the integrity of our profession. So to the undecided, we recognize, excuse me, we recognize that certain organizations may face budget constraints and travel policies, and we fully respect that. However, for those who are able to attend and register, we strongly encourage your participation. This annual meeting is our most ambitious yet, and it's going to be an amazing event. So register.
Right. Yes, please do. I can only say that as well. What, in your opinion, will be the 3 top highlights of the INTA annual meeting that everyone should be aware of? So maybe we can tease something that people who are undecided are going to register. And can people still register?
Absolutely. So my 3 highlights is the annual meeting delivered the highest ROI among global IP events. We have a cutting edge educational program, and we have unmatched networking and business development opportunities. Let me start with the first. Analysis shows that INTA annual meeting delivers the strongest return on investment compared to similar industry gatherings. Potential ROI is driven by a combination of networking scale, educational depth, and structured business development opportunities. In terms of the program itself, we've organized around 3 integrated tracks: law and policy, business of intangibles, and technology shaping the future of IP. I'm excited to say we have over 50 sessions and workshops covering law, policy, technology, and brand strategy. And the programming is also structured around 3 series: the in-house practitioner series, something new to INTA, the patent series, and professional development and career advancement series. We're going to have 2 daily keynote sessions featuring global leaders from government and business. And we've got unmatched networking and business development opportunities. You're going to be able to connect with over 10,000 professionals from 140 jurisdictions. And we will have business development excursions and tours that take networking into the city, and spaces unlimited. So one last thing. We have over 350 table topics. We'll return with a London twist. There'll be high tea table topics. We will engage 200 plus exhibitors from nearly 40 jurisdictions, including 44 first-time exhibitors, showcasing cutting-edge solutions in the innovation marketplace. And then we'll have speed networking in the innovation marketplace. There are 10 one-hour sessions available from Sunday through Wednesday. Registration is open. Visit the INTA website at inta.org to register at any time between now and April 30th. I consider it FOMO, fear of missing. You don't want to miss out. It's going to be phenomenal.
Right. I'm sure of that. Thank you so much. So I'm very grateful that you took your time in a very busy schedule. I know that. And thank you so much for being on IP Fridays.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's been a pleasure and joy. And anytime I get an opportunity to talk about 2 of my favorite passions, INTA and intellectual property, I'm there to do that. So thank you for giving me a platform to do so. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode. If you liked what you heard, please show us your love by visiting ipfridays.com/love and tweet a link to this show. We would be so grateful if you would do that. It would help us out to get the word out. Also, please subscribe to our podcast at ipfridays.com or on iTunes or Stitcher.com. If you have a question or want to be featured in one of the upcoming episodes, please send us your feedback at ipfridays.com/feedback. Also, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can go to ipfridays.com/iTunes and it will take you right to the correct page on iTunes. If you want to get mentioned on this podcast or even have comments within the next episode, please leave us your voicemail at ipfridays.com/voicemail. You have been listening to an episode of IP Fridays. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by their respective law firms. None of the content should be considered legal advice. The IP Fridays podcast should not be construed as legal advice or legal opinion on any specific facts or circumstances. The contents of this podcast are intended for general informational purposes only, and you are urged to consult your own lawyer on any specific legal questions. As always, consult a lawyer or patent or trademark attorney. Copyright 2014, all rights reserved.